East Coast DNA. I'm your host, Darcy Walsh, and today's guest we have Skye Wallace. So welcome, Skye.
Hello, how's it going?
So you've been mentioned a few times on this podcast,
Oh, wicked.
and even though you're not in the East Coast, you do have some connections to the East Coast.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love the East Coast.
Hmm.
But my mom's side of the family is from my people come from Newfoundland, like Placentia Bay area originally, and I've still got family there, mostly in like CBS. I've got a cousin on Fogo, and I like to go back as often as possible, just because I don't know, I just love it there. I love Newfoundland. I love all different parts too. Like I've had as a touring musician, I think I've had like further connections with different places that I don't know if I would have traveled to otherwise. Like Western Newfoundland has played a big part in my writing process. Like there's a place there in Norris Point that I go to not infrequently to write, and yeah, it's played a big role as far as like where the music comes from and who I am as a person. So yeah, I do love the East Coast.
And when I know that you have, what is it, 5 albums out already,
Yeah.
and I know you have new stuff to talk about that you're really excited to talk about. But just to get a little bit
Yeah.
of history for those people that are watching that maybe don't know who you are,
Mhm.
I suspect most of our viewers do know exactly who you are already.
Oh, really? That's nice. Oh,
But that
gosh.
said, since
Let
we're
me.
mostly East Coast and you're not really from here, I see your
Yep.
name down here quite a bit because you do play down here. But
Yes.
yeah, how long ago did you start as a musician?
I guess I started playing like I guess doing tours and things like that like 12, 13 years ago.
Okay.
So that was kind of like the fruition, and they were very deeply DIY tours. Like I couldn't even drive at that point. I was like bopping around on trains and like getting family members across the country to like help pick me up from trains to things like that. So it was like very ragtag. And I didn't realize how punk rock it was at the time, but looking
Hmm.
back, I'm very, very proud. But yeah, it's been kind of like a figure it out as you go along kind of journey, and a long one, but like a very like it's always been fruitful. Like it never feels stagnated. Like I feel like I'm always learning new things and meeting new people as I've kind of grown musically. Like the music has changed a lot over the course of those many albums, and there have been times where I look back on earlier stuff and I'm like, oh, maybe it doesn't quite fit what I'm doing now, and something's
Hmm.
like, oh, should I have put that out? But like I think there's merit to always putting that stuff out. I think it's like interesting to demystify the process of growth as an artist, and so I do. I stand by that. I stand by the whole uh, process of the thing, the whole career. And at this point, I don't know. I feel a lot more sure-footed having like experimented and explored a lot of those things. Uh, so yeah, I guess that brings me to where I'm at now, which is like a much bigger sound, kind of more of a rock thing. Still touring, but doing like heading off in a week to go do the US and Europe, which is great, and just kind of building.
That's super exciting, like right off the bat that you can hit a tour at that level. Like you're obviously at a level of success right now that like you can maintain this for a while. So
Yeah, we'll see.
is this the goal that you had originally starting off? Or like is this success for Skye?
I guess like I think that's really important actually, as far as just like the perception of success in our heads, in society, etc. Like that is a very funny beast, and I think it's really important to always look back on what you thought success was from the get-go, because I think like the breadth of what you've accomplished, it diminishes in your current state, but if you look
Hmm.
back to see the path, I think there's you surprise yourself. And so like looking back on a few things, like my goals when I was like 17 and like just starting to busk in like the landing in the town I was living in, like i I wanted to be on the radio at some point. I wanted to, at some point I wanted to play the Dakota Tavern in Toronto. I wanted to like have a level of like recognition and connection with my music where like people would deeply truly connect and like reach out and let me know. Like I feel like there are all these things that are now happening that I feel really grateful for. And I think in the grand the the big hustle life as it is right now, like those little things are easy to miss and forget about, or I guess to forget to cherish to the
Yeah.
extent that they should be. So that's been really I don't know. I think key in this last year, especially, I've just been really like relishing in the creative process, relishing in like collaborating and taking all of these little pieces of success for what they are, which is amazing. And little me would have been very excited.
And the sound you kind of alluded to a little bit, and if anyone goes and looks you up, they'll see like
Mhm.
the little blurbs for your bio. You do describe your sound right in there. So did you start off, like you mentioned busking? Did you start off like singer songwriter, like acoustic folk kind of music?
Yeah, very much so. And I think that was like that was a what inspired me, but also where my wheelhouse was at because I came from a very like vocal forward
Hmm.
kind of, I guess like my vocals were my first instrument. Like I did have some like not typical classical training, but like we did, you know, did operettas and things like that, had the technique that typically you wouldn't venture into as a rock singer. But I do think that being my main instrument lended itself quite well to starting out in the folk arena. And I think, you know, I don't think it ever truly went away. I do think like that storytelling aspect of my songwriting has always been a really important piece. It's just that, you know, over the years, the acoustic guitar started to have some distortion added to it. And then I realized I should just go electric. And then I, you know, added drums on top of the string section. And then the string section became bass and other things. So like it's been a gradual organic progression. But I think it was a lot of like, you know, following the gut and following the heart to make those decisions to like, I don't know, fulfill my my creative self.
And with the evolution of that sound, like there would obviously, the same as any human, you're going to have a lot of external influences from the changing scape of the whole music scene.
Oh
And
yeah.
the Canadian music scene, like if anyone pays attention to whether or not the bands they'll listen to are from Canada or not, there is kind of a sound that we have, like there, like for
Yeah.
alternative music, which you would fall into, like for modern alternative rock radio, I guess.
Yeah.
So I see you in there a lot, but I'm curious, is it influence from peers? Is it similar influences that your peers would have had? Or is it the people that you're collaborating with? Because I know you've had a few different band members, and a couple of the band members have been on our show as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
is it all?
that's a bit, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's I think it's everything all at once. I think it's
Hmm.
like everything forms a little shred, a little piece. And like as far as you're saying with like Canadian music, like I think I do derive a lot of influence from Canadian artists, like because I think back to that goals thing when you're younger, I think I looked to what was going on in Canada and I was like, oh, I want to make people feel like Ashtray Rock made me feel, or I want to, you know, get to a level playing festivals in Canada that I see the, let's see, like maybe like the Weaker Thans playing because they were like my favorite band, like things like that. So I think that was like the fruition, and I do still think like to this day, like you know, I just saw Library Voices play at Gateway Festival in Saskatchewan when we were playing there, and I realized like, oh, this was like exceptionally formative for me. So it's like it is very embedded in that Canadian thing. And like I've had also a huge breadth of collaboration with like lots of friends, lots of wonderful bandmates, collaborators. Devin and Gina, I think, were on this
Yes,
podcast. They're
yes, yes.
incredible. I love them. Devin actually produced a bunch of my stuff, the 2019 record and part of the last one as well. And just yeah, out of control. And then in more recent years, I've also gotten more comfortable with co-writing. So that's been also another branch of the collective uh, inspiration.
So that actually. It kind of is a question that I was going to save to later because I don't want to rush too much into the new stuff and burn you right out of the interview. But
I can gab forever, so.
you just announced Tough Kid.
Mhm.
So that's a new single that you have coming out?
That's right. Yeah, it's coming out in 13 days, 12 days. Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, just around the corner.
Yeah.
So
I'm
is
excited.
that a new, like, who's playing on that song with you?
That one is just me and so basically a couple months ago, like 6 months ago, Huxley Workman reached out and was like, "Hey, we have like friends of friends, and like I feel like we've almost met a whole bunch of times, and I feel like we would write really well together. I'm supposed to be writing a bunch. I know you're writing a bunch because I post about it a lot." And so he was like, "Do you want to try something?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm obsessed with you." Like I've been a big fan of just like his art and performance and writing
Hmm.
and everything for a long time. So we started writing some stuff, and it was just like instantly so uh, just like I don't know, like things I'd wanted to explore like in reality, seeing it there, I was just like, whoa, okay, this is like something special. Like the chemistry was there, it was awesome. And so like we have been venturing on this thing of like co-producing a whole bunch of music together, which is my first time like officially in the producer seat, which is very exciting and like very empowering. And actually it's the first time, like this song is the first time I'm releasing something where I'm playing all the like guitar and bass and then also doing all of the vocals, and Hawksley, of course, is doing the drums.
Hmm.
Uh, Maybe one of the best drummers I've ever experienced. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much it, which is
So,
kind of fun.
so does this mean that we'll have a new album in the foreseeable future that has a slightly varied sound from what we saw last time?
I mean, maybe I don't know if it's like a full like nobody has to be worried that it'll be like scream art pop or anything like that.
Hmm.
But I do think I'm settling into this concept for a record, and it's pretty much well, it's pretty much there.
Hmm.
Nothing's announced yet, but just I don't know. It's a bunch of thematic concepts that I'm really fired up about, and I think like all the ways that it's weaving, like the stories are weaving together, like just the visions that I had for like aesthetics and videos and accompanying art pieces and things like that are really coming into this thing, and it's making me very excited, and there will be I can promise lots to come, so.
That I did notice that you do seem keen to keep up with music videos to go with your releases. Not everybody does that
Yeah,
nowadays, so that's nice
it
to
is
see.
hard. It's hard, and it's expensive. It can be. I like even just collaborating with friends on things where it's like, I have this one friend who approached me and was like, "Hey, I'm getting into music videos. I want to uh, beef up my portfolio. Can I just do a little quick vid for you? It'll take like half a day kind of thing, and I'll just do it pro bono." Like things like that have been really helpful, where we can kind of like collaborate a little bit, or even, you know, I guess that's a thing that I was working on like over the last couple of years. Is like friends who also have brands and need content. Like it can be a little bit of a drag to just try to keep up with the amount of, you need pictures of yourself, you need this, you need this, you need this, and the music life does not really afford a ton of
Right.
uh cashola per se. So I think like me and some of my friends who had brands or or artists themselves, we would like get together and even just brainstorm, but sometimes we'd like take pictures of each other around town. We just like, let's go for a coffee, we'll walk around. If I see a cool photo that makes sense with your content, I can take a picture of you, you can take a picture of me. So there's definitely evolved a collaborative aspect to that as well, which I think you need, and I think it also fosters a sense of community, and calling social media what it is, which I
Yeah.
think be it can be displayed and perceived as this thing that everybody can just do fine, and it's like it's so easy, it's so like effortless, but it isn't.
Yeah.
There's so much work that goes into all of it, and it can be mind numbing, it can be soul crushing, like just in those moments where you're trying to like create content about yourself and like say, I don't know, like set yourself apart from the a million other videos that are out there, like it can really get to you. So I think having that one-on-one acknowledgement that, like, we're able to help each other, we're in this together, it's not wonderful all the time, but we can make it a little bit better in those moments.
And like yourself, people that are out there kind of collaborating a little bit on the social media end,
Mhm.
even if it's somewhat passive, it creates a sense on the other end, like for someone like myself, that there is a community there. Now, sometimes it might
Yeah,
be an artificial painted picture of what's actually happening behind the scenes, but a rosy picture is nice.
for
I'm
sure,
fine. I'll get behind
absolutely.
that, right?
Yeah, totally. And like I definitely don't want to like drag social media, because I feel like, especially in the last like 6 months, I've really like my relationship with it has really changed. And I think part of that was just, burnout before, and it does burn one out for sure. Like we can
Hmm.
all agree, I think. But yeah, I think I just got to a point where it's like, I acknowledge I've been doing this for a long time, and I value, just authenticity and being myself and connecting with the people who are following, who have yet to follow, but who have been following more than anything, like who have been there through the whole process. And so like I kind of am just doing whatever I want to do now.
Hmm.
Like, and some of that can be like stupid jokes like I was doing at the beginning of the year. I think that really like lit something in me where I was like, oh, I don't need to hide my weirdness. People want to see like little bits of myself that are actually like, that they're weird, but everyone's weird. Like, I think there's
Yeah,
something to that, like the humanity of the imperfection, or just like the raw self, I think is really compelling to me.
definitely over the last few decades, like it's not so much that any particular pocket of people has grown individually, it's just the overall acceptance. And it'd be hard for somebody, maybe some younger people may have a real hard time wrapping their head around this, but acceptance in general of people just being themselves is a lot more accepted, I guess,
Yeah,
nowadays than it ever was.
I'd say.
So
Yeah.
it is, people seem to be, not everyone's leaning into it, but people are
Mhm.
starting to be able to find the comfort in like, oh, I can just do whatever I feel
Yeah,
like, and it doesn't really impact anyone in a negative way. It's not bad or
that's right.
wrong, right?
Yeah,
So,
totally. And I do think like, there's negative sides to that. Like, we're all fighting in this like global market trying to get heard on one end of that side. But because of the like, the global market means a vast, vast, vast audience that like we would never have had access to before,
mhm,
here now. And because of that, there's an audience for everything. And so I think originality is becoming currency. I think like following what only you can do as an artist, which means just like being your unadulterated raw self. I think
mhm,
that that becomes interesting and like appealing to people, which is like I'm all for it, because like only you, like the guarantee is that only you can do you.
mhm.
And so to have that be the guiding factor, it's like, oh well, that's simple. Like I don't have to like soul search and like figure out, like, because there's so many kinds of music out there, there's so many kinds of ways to present yourself, all this thing, and it's like, well, just follow your gut and do the thing that you want to do and be creative and inspired along the way, and that's kind of a good place to be. So I don't know, I'm excited about where
Well,
it's at.
one thing, just since you're talking about social media, I didn't have this in notes, but it just made me think of it. You recently did a collaboration for a beer.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember seeing the clips on social media. So that was something that you did that was a little outside the box creatively, and it
totally.
stuck
Yeah.
out. But yeah, maybe you might as
Yeah.
well talk about it for a second since I bring
Yeah,
it up.
totally. So there's this wicked brewery in Toronto called Long Slice, and they've been quite supportive over the years. They've even like, donated a bunch of beers to video shoots and things like that. And they have this beer called Skye Bison.
Hmm.
It's an APA, American Pale Ale, and I love Skye Bison. I've been drinking it for a long time, and so they came to some shows, and Cora Lee, one of the main folks at Long Slice, reached out and was like, "Hey, what if we had a special edition can that like you helped design. We can like do us, instead of Skye Bison, we can do like a Skye Wallace. So we like concocted this concept where it was like I was breaking into the brewery and like messing up their cans with a Sharpie. So the design kind of reflects that, like the bison's crossed out, there's Wallace, but then also there's a picture that was drawn by this tattoo artist in town named Wes Pratt, who's at Duchess Tattoos. And so that's been on my t-shirts. It's me riding like a leopard,
Hmm.
which is very sick. But we figured out how to like bring that into the beer can where I am in fact riding the bison. Uh,
Awesome.
and so yeah, it really worked out, and it's very cool. And that's another example of just like collaborating with friends. Everybody's doing cool stuff, and even like there's I'm trying to like get together things for like a more feature length situation, or even like a documentary for the next little while, and that's just been like just the multimedia, I think,
Hmm.
landscape is really where I've been sourcing some energy. So yeah, I love it.
I just, well, I mean, it was a couple weeks ago, I guess, but I just had a conversation with Andre Pettipas about the
Oh
90s always had like VHS videos of the bands you liked, like that were little clips from their tours and performances and stuff.
yeah,
And I remember those,
yeah,
but it is funny with the changing landscape for media. I remember those as like something you would watch with friends, and then like you'd end up watching it again a week later, or maybe you'd leave it on
yeah,
and watch it twice in a row or so. And I remember them being long. But if you go back and look, like those are under an hour. Like it was rare that
yeah,
they went over an hour. And
it's
nowadays
true.
we're all producing 5 minutes of content every 15 minutes to stay relevant. It,
Oh
it
yeah,
it
for
adds up
sure.
so quick. It's funny, like to actually sit down and put together something like you're talking about, like some kind of movie or something to
Yeah,
kind of
well,
capture it
like,
as a package. It's super doable.
yeah,
We don't do it enough.
for sure. And I mean that's why I think a lot of like the role of like social media person on tour has become so highly coveted and like very necessary, just
Hmm.
because it's like, I guess that's a point where I'm in right now, where I'm like I'm running out of time allotted, like that I physically have before the tour happens. And ideally I would like to have all my social media done, at least for the release stuff, ahead of time, because I know I'm always like, I can go do this on tour. I'll just
Hmm.
like make some content on tour. No, you can't. Like it's so different. Like you can, but especially, I'm at a level where like I don't have a tour manager necessarily. I'm kind of like, have to kind of troubleshoot as we go. Um, but I think, yeah, I don't see the availability to do social media at this point,
Hmm.
um, except for like small moments that you can steal away here and there. But like I would want to put more into that than that. So yeah, I do think it's a funny thing where it's like you kind of have to like strike a balance and like reconcile your time to yourself, and just make it happen. It'll all get
That's
done.
a little call out to fans out there too, then, because I know that it's common with a lot of people that I have interviewed. Like the artists really do appreciate the fans that are putting the effort in, that maybe have some different skill sets or a
Yeah,
different amount of time available to them at that particular time when you're out there performing. Because by the time you're done performing and you got to tear everything down, and maybe you socialize with the people you just
yeah.
performed with,
Do
or
some
maybe you're
merch.
dead tired and you need to sleep for 12 hours. Like it's hard to squeeze in
Imagine.
that social media aspect there. So,
It is, yeah, yeah. And like the few times I've had a couple of friends like come to shows and be the social media person, mostly
hmm.
just like in Toronto if it's an easy thing, but like what a difference just like having, stories from backstage of your set, and
Hmm.
like just like little bits of like the surrounding that you wouldn't even think of, because you're just like tour and shows, I find it's just like, okay, next step. You're just looking at putting one foot in front of the other, and not really thinking about the big picture of like, oh, if I get this, this will come in handy for later. Like that doesn't really, there's no space in the brain for
Hmm.
that, for me anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that I've seen the light, and that would be awesome to have. So that's definitely a to do to have someone doing that.
And so when does this tour start?
September 8th,
Okay.
going down to Cincinnati first. Is the first it's the first like festival I'm playing in the States, which is very exciting.
And so do you have a different touring band than what I would have seen recently because you have new material that you're doing on your own and working with
It's
Oxley and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the same rhythm section as I think you would have seen. It's Chris Demas and Jay Stratman.
Hmm.
But then just like based on availability, it's a big tour. I have like a rotating cast of folks who have been with me this summer,
Hmm.
and including Devin and Gina that you saw.
Hmm.
And but for this tour, coming with me is my friend Kurt Cuffey, who's based out of Vancouver, and he's we've been friends since we were like 7,
Okay.
and he's just the greatest, and he's playing guitar, but also like actually what we were just talking about, like he is bringing a whole bunch of cameras and like video, you know, toys that he
Yeah.
likes to play with, because he's been, he used to do like Warp tours as like the social media and merch person. Like he would be the guy and loves doing that stuff. So that's a very fortuitous thing where it's like, oh yeah, we get to create some art together on the road, and I think it'll be really fun. I'm very
Oh, it
excited.
sounds like fun. I think most of the audience of this particular show is either people that do that, like, and myself,
Yeah,
like people that do stuff like this, or artists like yourselves that are
yeah,
curious what their
yeah.
friends are up to or who this other band is they never collaborated with before. So
Totally. Yeah,
yeah.
big time. I think too there's like I'm all for the like the demystification of the process. Like I
Hmm.
think, I don't know, it's I feel like you don't have to, or at least where I'm at, I don't really want to keep my cards close to my chest as far as like this is what touring is like. This is like how this happens. Like, oh no, this happened. So I think there's something to be said about just like having like that honest open book. I think people, because like you're selling your personality, but also I think people want to know like what you're going through. I think it's like it's
Yeah.
informative as well as, like if people haven't toured before, it's like, what does that look like, what are you experiencing? So I think there's a bit of interest you can garner in that way as well.
And so with 5 albums and a new single on the way. So September 12th is the specific date for the release. Just
That's
depending
right.
on when
Yeah.
people are listening to this, it may be afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But is there any particular song that you would like to play off the end of this episode with?
Ooh. Yeah, let's go with, sorry.
Oh no, I like when people think about it. Sometimes we'll just go with the latest single, but I do like when we're right in that pocket in between because you can just pick anything from your whole
Yeah.
catalog.
Yeah. Um, let's go with The Doubt
All
for
right,
my last record.
perfect.
I love that
Well,
too.
we'll play off here with the doubt, and we'll put some links down below if anybody wants to check out tour dates or the new single. And maybe when the tour dates die down, if you want to reach out, we could do a little follow up and find out where the Tough Kid single led, because I suspect that there's going to
Yeah.
be some cool new material coming.
Yeah, I would love that. And yeah, I'm hoping to maybe get out your way again in the spring. So
Excellent.
let's keep in touch.
Yes, we actually, I don't know if you're familiar with all of our content there, but we do. Well, I guess you knew I was at the Somo Festival as well.
That's right.
We do some on the road episodes as well. So if
Very
you're on
cool.
tour down
Yeah,
this way, just give me a heads up and we'll see what we can work
that
out.
that would be awesome. Okay, cool.
Excellent. Well, thanks
Great,
again.
great interview. Thank you for all the wonderful questions.
Oh, thank
Great.
you for giving me your time. I know you're busy and getting ready to head out on the road again, so I'm glad the timing worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all coming together.
Awesome. Thanks again.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
I'm thinking that I could be the weakest link. Oh, stripped bare, my whole body reacts to the thought. God knows there are some days that I know I'm tough. Still, I'm feeling like I couldn't change myself. enough, enough. Yeah, I feel it deep in my chest. Can I shake it? Is it enough? And it begins. Am I enough? Am I enough? Give me the score, sharpen the knife. Tell it to me straight now, don't you play me nice. Yeah, do I belong? Am I doing it right? Making it look easy, put up a fight. Yeah, I'm on the inside, looking out. I hate myself when I feel a doubt. In everything I've ever done, give me the score. Am I the only one? Am I the only one? Goddamn, I'm unraveling in my skin. Drenched to the bone, sick to my stomach.